The rain tapped a restless rhythm against the window of Owen's bedroom, a small, cluttered space in the old house on Maple Lane. At 10 years old, Owen was used to the creaks and groans of the place. His mom called it character, but tonight felt different. The clock glowed 11:47 p.m., its red digits casting a faint light across his Star Wars posters and scattered Lego bricks. He lay in bed, blankets pulled to his chin, when it started. A whisper, soft and scratchy, like leaves dragged across pavement, coming from under his bed. He froze, breath held, ears straining. It wasn't the wind, too steady, too close. Owen, it rasped, barely audible, his name stretched thin. He bolted upright, heart thudding, and flicked on his bedside lamp, its weak glow pushing shadows to the corners. Nothing, no toys, no socks, just the familiar dust bunnies beneath the wooden frame. He leaned over, peering into the dark gap, and the whisper came again, sharper, "Owen, come see." His stomach twisted, but curiosity tugged harder than fear. He slid off the bed, knees on the cold floor, and pressed his cheek to the hardwood, squinting. The shadows seemed to shift, not just light playing tricks, but moving, curling like smoke. He grabbed his flashlight from the nightstand, its beam trembling as he aimed it under. The dust swirled, and there, a glint, a shimmer like glass catching light. A trapdoor, small and square, its edges etched with strange, jagged lines. Owen's breath caught. He'd lived here 3 years, how had he never seen this? The whisper returned, a chorus now, overlapping, "Open it, Owen. See us." His fingers hovered over the latch, a rusted metal ring, and against every scream in his head he pulled. The door creaked open, revealing not the crawlspace he'd expected, but a hole, deep, black, endless, the air cold and damp, smelling of earth and something sour. The whisper surged, excited, tugging at him, "Come down, come play." He yanked back, slamming the trapdoor shut, and scrambled onto the bed, flashlight clutched like a lifeline. The whispers faded, but the room felt heavier, the shadows thicker. Morning came slow, gray light filtering through the curtains, and Owen crept downstairs, the trapdoor burning in his mind. His mom, Jenny, was at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a night shift. "You okay, kiddo?" she asked, eyeing his pale face. "There's something under my bed," he blurted, voice shaky. "A door." Whispers. Jenny frowned, setting her mug down. "A door?" "Owen, it's an old house, probably just the wind or a dream." She ruffled his hair, tired but gentle. "I'll check tonight, okay? After work." He nodded, unconvinced, the whispers echoing in his ears. School dragged, his thoughts on that hole, those voices. Were they real? A prank? He'd check again, prove it wasn't his imagination. Back home, he locked the front door, Mom wouldn't be back, till late, and climbed the stairs, flashlight in hand, a kitchen knife tucked in his pocket for courage. His room was quiet, the bed looming like a challenge. He dropped to his knees, lifted the trapdoor an inch, and listened. Silence, then a hiss. "Owen," we waited. He flinched, dropping it shut, but the latch clicked open on its own, the door swinging wide. Shadows spilled out, not just light tricks, figures, thin and wispy, their edges blurring, eyes glinting like whetstones. He stumbled back, flashlight beam shaking as they slithered onto the floor, 3, maybe 4, humanoid but wrong, their limbs too long, fingers curling like smoke. "You opened it," one hissed, voice sharp, overlapping with the others. "You're ours now." Owen's chest tightened, fear choking him. "Who are you?" he croaked. The tallest shadow leaned closer, its face a void with those glinting eyes. "We're the beneath," it said, a grin splitting the dark. "We take what's given, your soul, sweet boy." He bolted, slamming his bedroom door, racing downstairs to the living room, heart pounding. The whispers followed, faint but persistent, seeping through the walls. "Can't run, Owen. We're close." He hid behind the couch, knife out, flashlight off, listening as the house groaned, the shadows stretching longer than they should. Mom wouldn't believe this, not without proof. He needed a plan, to trap them, fight them, anything. But the whispers grew louder, promising they'd wait, patient as the dark itself. Owen crouched behind the couch, the kitchen knife trembling in his grip, its blade catching the faint glow of the street lamp through the living room curtains. The whispers had quieted, but the air buzzed with their presence, a weight pressing on his chest. The beneath, those shadowy things, knew his name, wanted his soul, and the trapdoor under his bed was their gate. He'd slammed his bedroom door, run downstairs, but the house felt alive now, its shadows twitching at the edges of his vision, stretching too far, too fast. The clock on the mantel ticked past 7 p.m., each second a hammer in the silence. Mom wouldn't be home for hours. Night shifts at the hospital stretched to dawn, and Owen was alone with them. He clutched the flashlight, its beam off to save the batteries, and listened. A creak upstairs, soft but deliberate, like footsteps on the hardwood. His breath hitched. They were moving, testing the house, hunting him. "Owen!" A whisper hissed, slithering from the stairwell. "We see you." He bolted to the kitchen, locking the door behind him, its flimsy latch a weak defense. The beneath had said he was theirs, because he'd opened the trapdoor? His mind raced, replaying their words. "You're ours now." Was it a trick, a rule? He needed answers, not just fear. Grabbing salt from the pantry, something he'd seen in a movie, he poured a shaky circle around himself on the tile floor, knife and flashlight inside. "Stay out," he muttered, voice cracking, hoping it worked. The whispers grew, a chorus now, overlapping and sharp. "Salt won't hold us, sweet boy. We're patient." A shadow slid under the kitchen door, thin as smoke, pooling on the floor like oil. Owen flicked the flashlight on, its beam slicing through, and the shadow hissed, recoiling, splitting into tendrils that retreated. Light. They didn't like light. He swung the beam around, catching glints of eyes in the corners, wet and gleaming, watching from the dark. "Who are you really?" he shouted, emboldened by the flashlight's power. The tallest shadow reformed outside the salt, its void face tilting. "We're the beneath," it rasped, voice echoing inside his skull. "Born of forgotten things, lost toys, broken dreams, the dark under beds. We take what's offered. You opened our door, gave us claim." Owen's stomach dropped. "I didn't give you anything," he yelled. The shadow's grin widened, teeth like shards of night. "Opening is giving. Your soul's ours slowly, sweetly." He tightened his grip on the knife, mind scrambling. Slowly, did that mean he had time? The shadow drifted closer, testing the salt, its edge sizzling faintly but not crossing. "Run all you like," it hissed. "We're part of this house now. Part of you." The others joined, circling the kitchen, their whispers and net tightening around him. "Stay with us, play with us, be us." Owen swung the flashlight, driving them back, but the batteries flickered, the beam dimming. Panic surged. He needed more light, a plan. The basement had a box of old Christmas lights, bright ones. He bolted from the circle, salt scattering, and yanked the kitchen door open, racing downstairs. The shadows followed, slow and deliberate, their whispers taunting. "Can't hide, Owen." The basement was damp, cluttered with boxes and cobwebs, the single bulb overhead weak. He found the lights, tangled strands of bulbs, and plugged them in, a burst of color flooding the space. The shadows shrieked, retreating to the stairwell, their forms fraying. He dragged the lights upstairs, stringing them around the living room, plugging in every lamp, turning the house into a fortress of brightness. The whispers faded, the shadows thinning, but not gone, lurking at the edges, waiting. Owen sat on the couch, knife in hand, lights blazing, until the front door rattled. "Mom, home at last." "Owen?" she called, stepping in, her face paling at the chaos. "What's going on?" He leapt up, words tumbling out. "Under my bed, shadows, a trapdoor. They want me." Jenny knelt, gripping his shoulders, her nurse's calm cracking. "Slow down, kiddo. Shadows?" She glanced upstairs, skeptical but worried. "Show me." He led her, lights trailing, and pointed to the trapdoor, still ajar, the hole blacker than before. She peered in, flashlight steady, and gasped. A shimmer, a glint, then nothing. "Just a hole," she said, voice tight. "But weird. We'll board it up tomorrow." Owen shook his head, frantic. "They're real, Mom. They'll come back." She hugged him, firm. "We'll fix it. Stay in my room tonight." Her bed was bigger, across the hall, no trapdoor. He nodded, clutching the knife. But as they settled in, the whispers returned, faint under her bed. "Owen, we're still here." His eyes widened, the lights not reaching this dark, and he knew. Closing the door wouldn't stop them. They were patient, and he was running out of time. Owen lay rigid in his mom's bed, the kitchen knife clutched under the pillow, its cold steel a thin comfort against the whispers creeping from below. The Christmas lights blazed downstairs, their glow seeping through the hall. But Jenny's room was dim, her bedside lamp casting weak shadows across the floral wallpaper. "Owen, we're still here." The beneath hissed, their voices threading through the floorboards, soft but relentless. He'd hoped Mom's room was safe. No trapdoor, no hole. But the shadows didn't need an open gate anymore. They'd claimed the house. Jenny slept fitfully beside him, her breathing uneven, oblivious to the whispers. He'd begged her to believe the trapdoor, the creatures, but she'd clung to logic, promising to board it up at dawn. Old houses play tricks, she'd said, exhaustion dulling her doubt. Owen knew better, the beneath weren't tricks. They were real, patient, and hungry for his soul. The clock glowed 2:13 a.m. and he stared at the gap under her bed, waiting for those glinting eyes. A shadow moved, slow, liquid, pooling from the dark like spilled ink. He flicked on the lamp, its light weak but enough to make it hiss and retreat, tendrils curling back. Light worked, but not forever. The flashlight had dimmed, the batteries fading. He needed a plan, not just a shield. Slipping from the bed, he grabbed the lamp, cord trailing, and aimed it under, sweeping the beam. No trapdoor, just dust and an old shoebox, yet the whispers persisted. "You can't burn us away, sweet boy." He shook Jenny awake, voice trembling. "Mom, they're here, under your bed now." She jolted up, bleary-eyed, grabbing her own flashlight from the nightstand. "Owen, enough," she started, but stopped as a shadow darted across the wall, too fast for a trick of light. She swung her beam, catching a glint, eyes, wet and gleaming, vanishing into the dark. "Jesus," she breathed, pulling him close. "What are they?" "They're the beneath," he said, words spilling. "From under my bed, want my soul, 'cause I opened their door." Jenny's face hardened, fear sharpening her nurse's calm. "Okay, kiddo. We're not sleeping here." She yanked the lamp's plug, grabbed a blanket, and dragged him downstairs, the Christmas lights a beacon. The living room blazed, shadows pushed to the edges, but the whispers followed, circling. "No escape, Owen." Jenny rummaged in the closet, pulling out a toolbox, hammer, nails, a plank from a broken shelf. "We bored that hole now," she said, resolute. Upstairs, the trapdoor gaped, the blackness deeper, colder. She knelt, flashlight steady, and froze. A shadow slithered out, thin and sharp, its void face grinning. Too late, it hissed, lunging. Owen swung the lamp, its bulb smashing against the floor, and the shadow shrieked, fraying into smoke. Jenny hammered the plank down, nails biting wood, sealing the hole, but the whispers laughed, echoing through the room. "We're free now." She grabbed him, retreating to the living room, lights blazing. "What do they mean, free?" she demanded, voice shaking. Owen's throat tightened. "I opened it, they don't need the door anymore. They're in the house." Jenny cursed, rare for her, and checked the windows locked, curtains drawn. "We need help," she said, grabbing her phone. "Police? Priest?" Owen shook his head. "They won't believe us. Light keeps them back, maybe salt too." She nodded, digging out more salt, pouring lines at the doors and windows, a fragile fortress. The whispers quieted, but the shadows lingered, testing the edges, their eyes glinting like stars in a void. Jenny sat him on the couch, flashlight in hand. "Tell me everything," she said, firm. He did, the trapdoor, the voices, their claim, his voice breaking as he finished. "They'll take me slow, unless we stop them." Jenny's jaw set, a plan forming. "Daylight soon, they might weaken. We'll get more lights, figure this out." She called her friend Mark, a handyman, leaving a vague voicemail. "Emergency, need floodlights, now." Owen clutched the knife, doubt gnawing. "What if light's not enough?" he asked. She squeezed his hand, fierce. "Then we fight, kiddo. I'm not losing you." As dawn neared, the whispers faded, the shadows thinning, but a new sound came, a scratch, slow and deliberate, under the couch. Owen leapt up, beam swinging, and saw it, a shadow, clawing from below, its fingers long and sharp. "They're everywhere," he yelled. Jenny yanked him back, salt scattering, and the shadow hissed, retreating. The house was theirs now, every dark corner a gate, and Owen knew it. Light and salt were stalling, not stopping. He needed to find their weakness, or the beneath would claim him, piece by piece. The living room glowed with Christmas lights and flickering lamps, a fragile bubble of safety as dawn broke over Maple Lane. Owen sat on the couch, knife in one hand, flashlight in the other, the scratch from beneath still ringing in his ears. Jenny paced, salt canister empty, her phone pressed to her ear as she left another voicemail for Mark. "Floodlights, please, hurry." The beneath had retreated with. The gray light filtering through the curtains, but their whispers lingered, a faint hum in the walls. "We wait, Owen." "Always." The trapdoor was boarded, but it didn't matter. The shadows were free, seeping through every dark corner, under every bed, every couch. Jenny slumped beside him, her nurse's hands trembling as she rubbed her face. "Okay, kiddo," she said, voice steadying. "They hate light, we've got that. Salt slows them. What else?" Owen's mind raced, replaying their words, born of forgotten things, lost toys, broken dreams. "Maybe they're tied to stuff we don't want," he said, hesitant. "Like junk under beds?" Her eyes lit up, a spark of hope. "Worth a shot." We clean it out, get rid of their anchor. She grabbed trash bags from the kitchen, determination hardening her. Start here, anything old, forgotten goes. They tore through the living room, tossing faded magazines, a broken remote, a sock with no match. Under the couch, Owen found a dusty toy car, its paint chipped, his from years back, lost and unmissed. He threw it in the bag, and a whisper hissed, sharp and angry, ours. He froze, flashlight swinging, but no shadows moved, the light held them back. It worked, he said, breathless. They don't like losing stuff. Jenny nodded, grim. Upstairs next, your room's a mess. They climbed, lights trailing, and tackled his bedroom, old comics, a cracked Lego set, a stuffed bear with one eye. Each toss drew a hiss, a flicker of eyes in the corners, but the shadows stayed thin, fraying. The trapdoor's plank held, no scratches, no whispers from below. By noon, the house felt lighter, the bags piled by the curb for trash day. Mark arrived, bleary-eyed, hauling floodlights from his truck. What's the emergency? He asked, eyeing the chaos. Jenny forced a smile. Pest problem, need light everywhere. He shrugged, setting up the lights, bright, industrial, flooding the living room and hall. The shadows shrank further, their whispers a distant murmur. Thanks, Mark, she said, slipping him cash. Stay for coffee? He declined, yawning, and left. Owen sat amid the glare, knife down, hope flickering. Think it's over? He asked. Jenny shook her head, wary. They're weaker, but still here. We need more, something to kill them, not just push them back. She grabbed her laptop, searching shadow creatures folklore, her nurse's logic bending to the impossible. Owen joined, scanning results, salt, light, iron, mirrors. Mirrors reflect them, he read, excited. Maybe trap them? Jenny nodded. We've got that old one in the attic, big, heavy. They hauled it down, a full-length mirror with a chipped frame, and propped it in the living room, facing the stairwell. The whispers grew agitated, a low buzz, no looking, no seeing. Owen aimed a floodlight at it, the beam bouncing, and a shadow darted past, caught in the glass, its void face twisting, shrieking as it frayed. It hurts them, he yelled. Jenny grinned, fierce. Good. More mirrors every room. They raided the house, bathroom hand mirrors, of vanity glass, positioning them with lights, a maze of reflections. The beneath howled, their forms splitting in the glare, but didn't vanish, retreating to the edges. Not enough, Jenny muttered, scanning the laptop. Iron hurt spirits. We've got that poker by the fireplace. Owen grabbed it, rusted but solid, and swung at a shadow creeping near, the metal sliced through, a wail echoing as it dissolved, smoke curling away. He cheered, but Jenny's face stayed grim. One down, how many left? The whispers surged angrier, you can't win, sweet boy. We're endless. Owen's hope faltered, mirrors and iron wounded them, but the beneath kept coming, patient, waiting for dark. Night soon, he said, voice small. Lights won't last forever. Jenny squeezed his shoulder, resolute. Then we find their source under my bed, yours, somewhere. We destroy it. As dusk fell, the floodlights hummed, mirrors gleaming, but a shadow slipped through faster, clawing at the salt line. Owen stabbed with the poker, dispersing it, but more eyes glinted, too many. They're stronger, he gasped. Jenny nodded, grabbing the laptop. We need a trap, something big. Before they take you. The beneath laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and Owen knew. Time was slipping, and the shadows were closing in. The house on Maple Lane blazed with floodlights and mirrored reflections. A fortress of light and iron. But the shadows of the beneath pressed closer as night deepened. Owen gripped the fireplace poker, its rusted edge stained with wisps of dissipated shadow, while Jenny adjusted a mirror, its beam catching glinting eyes that hissed and retreated. The salt lines held barely, their edges sizzling as the creatures tested them, their whispers a relentless tide. Your hours, Owen. Soon, sweet boy. The clock ticked past 9 p.m., and the power flickered, the lights dimming for a heartbeat before steadying. Jenny slammed her laptop shut, her face pale but set. Mirrors hurt them, iron kills them, but there's too many, she said, voice tight. We've got to find their source. Trap them there, end this. Owen nodded, his throat dry. Under the beds, they came from mine, moved to yours. It's gotta be something down there. She grabbed a hammer from the toolbox, handing him a flashlight. We rip up the floors, find it. No more running. They started in her room, the floodlights trailing, mirrors propped at angles. The bed was shoved aside, exposing hardwood scratched and worn. Owen knelt, flashlight sweeping, and spotted it. A faint outline, Another trapdoor, smaller, hidden under dust. "Here!" he called, prying with the poker. The wood splintered, revealing a hole, black, cold. The same sour earth scent wafting up. The whispers surged, furious. "No, no, don't touch." A shadow lunged, clawing from the dark, and Jenny swung the hammer, smashing it back, its form fraying. Owen aimed the flashlight down, the beam swallowed by depth, but a glint caught his eye. Something metal embedded in the dirt wall, pulsing faintly. "There's stuff down there," he said, breathless. Jenny peered in, grim. "They're anchor, forgotten things," you said. "We destroy it, maybe them too." She tied a rope from the toolbox around her waist, handing him the end. "I'm going, you hold me." He protested, but her look silenced him. "I'm stronger, kiddo. Stay up here, light and iron." She lowered herself, hammer in hand, the rope taut as Owen braced against the bed frame. The whispers turned to shrieks, shadows swirling below, their eyes blazing. "She's ours now," they howled, lunging at her. Owen swung the poker, slicing through one, while Jenny's flashlight beam drove others back. "Found it," she shouted, voice echoing. A box, old, metal, full of junk. She smashed it, the hammer ringing, and a wail erupted, the shadows thrashing, some dissolving into smoke. The rope jerked, something pulled hard. Owen dug his heels in, yelling, "Mom, climb." She scrambled up, scratched and panting, the box in her grip rusted, etched with the same jagged lines as his trapdoor, spilling broken toys, faded photos, a child's shoe. "Their stuff," she gasped, dropping it. The shadows surged, stronger, their void faces snarling, "You break nothing, fools." Owen stabbed the poker into the box, shattering a cracked doll, and a shadow shrieked, collapsing into ash. "It works," he yelled, but the others pressed closer, undeterred. Jenny grabbed the hammer, smashing more, a toy soldier, a torn book, each blow weakening them, their wails piercing. "Burn it," she said, decisive. "All of it, fire might finish them." They dragged the box downstairs, floodlights flickering as the shadows clawed at the edges, their whispers desperate. "Stop, stop, ours." In the kitchen, Jenny dumped the contents into the sink, dousing them with lighter fluid from the toolbox. Owen struck a match, hands shaking, and dropped it. The junk flared, smoke billowing, the shadows howling as their forms frayed. The tallest shadow lunged, clawing through the flames, its void face twisting. "You can't destroy us," it roared, grabbing Owen's arm, cold searing his skin. He stabbed with the poker, iron biting deep, and it dissolved, ash scattering. The fire raged, the sink blackening, and the whispers faded, the house trembling as the beneath weakened. Jenny yanked him back, coughing, and doused the flames with water, the charred remains hissing. The light steadied, the mirrors silent, no eyes, no shadows. "Did we get them?" Owen asked, voice small. Jenny hugged him, fierce but uncertain. "Maybe. They're tied to that stuff, burning it hurt them bad." She checked the trapdoors, both quiet, no whispers, but a chill lingered, the dark under the beds still deep. "We need to seal this," she said, grabbing nails. "No more chances." As they hammered planks over the second hole, a faint scratch came, not from below, but the walls, a whisper too soft to catch. Owen froze, flashlight swinging, and saw it, a shadow, thin and fast, darting into the attic stairs. "They're not gone," he whispered, dread pooling. "One's left, or more." Jenny's jaw set, hammer raised. "Then we trap it, end it for good." The kitchen reeked of charred metal and burned plastic, the sink a blackened grave for the beneath's anchor, the box of forgotten things Owen and Jenny had torched. The house stood silent, floodlights steady, mirrors reflecting empty corners, but the faint scratch from the attic stairs lingered in Owen's ears, a whisper too soft to decipher. One shadow remained or more, slipping through their defenses, weakened but alive. He gripped the fireplace poker, its iron edge his anchor, while Jenny held the hammer, her nurse's hands steady despite the exhaustion etching her face. "We trap it," she'd said, and now the clock ticked toward midnight, the dark pressing in. Owen's arm throbbed where the shadow had grabbed him, a cold burn under his sleeve, but he pushed it aside. "The attic," he said, voice firm. "It went up there, we end it." Jenny nodded, grabbing a flashlight and the last of the salt. "Mirrors and iron, we'll box it in, finish what the fire started." They climbed, the stairs creaking, the air growing colder, heavier, as if the house held its breath. The attic door was ajar, a sliver of black beyond, and the whisper came again. "Owen, sweet boy, join us." He swung the flashlight, its beam cutting through dust and cobwebs, revealing rafters and boxes, the old mirror they'd hauled down earlier leaning against a wall. No eyes, no shadows yet. Jenny poured salt at the threshold, a thin line, and propped a hand mirror by the door, its reflection aimed inward. "Stay close," she whispered, hammer raised. Owen nodded, poker ready, and stepped in, the floorboards groaning under his weight. The whisper sharpened, a hiss from the dark, "You can't kill us, we're endless." A shadow darted, fast and thin, skittering along the ceiling, its void face glinting with whetstone eyes. Owen swung the poker, missing, but Jenny angled the mirror, catching it, the reflection twisted, the shadow shrieking as it frayed, splitting into smoke. "It's weak," she yelled, grabbing the big mirror, tilting it toward the rafters. Owen aimed the flashlight, amplifying the beam, and the shadow howled, pinned in the glass, its form shuddering. "Burning your junk hurt you," Owen shouted, emboldened. "You're not endless, just scraps." The shadow lunged, clawing from the mirror, but Jenny swung the hammer, smashing its edge, the glass shattered, and the shadow wailed, half its form dissolving into ash. "Iron!" she yelled, and Owen stabbed, the poker slicing through, dispersing the rest in a burst of cold vapor. The attic fell silent, dust settling, but a new scratch came behind a trunk, faint but real. They moved, shoving the trunk aside, revealing a crack in the floorboards, narrow and deep, oozing shadow like ink. "Another hole," Jenny cursed, flashlight trembling. The whisper rose, weaker, "We're still here, sweet boy always." Owen's heart sank. They'd burned the box, sealed the trapdoors, but the beneath were tied to the house itself, every dark crevice a root. "We can't kill them all," he said, voice breaking. "They keep coming." Jenny's jaw set, a fierce glint in her eyes. "Then we trap them forever." She grabbed the salt, pouring it into the crack, and hauled a heavy box over it, nailing it down with the hammer. "Light and iron, they hate it. We flood this place, seal every hole." They worked fast, dragging floodlights up, stringing them across the attic, their glare banishing shadows. Owen stabbed the poker into the crack, twisting, and a final wail echoed, fading to nothing as the salt sizzled, the box holding firm. Downstairs, they checked every room, under beds, in closets, nailing boards, salting cracks, mirrors at every angle. The house hummed with light, no whispers, no eyes. Dawn broke, gray and soft, and Owen collapsed on the couch, poker beside him. "Is it over?" he asked, voice small. Jenny sat, pulling him close, her breath shaky. "Think so, kiddo. They're trapped, weak, stuck. We'll keep the lights, the iron. No more dark." They slept, exhaustion claiming them, the house quiet for the first time in days. When Mark returned, puzzled but helpful, they bought more floodlights, rigged the place bright, every corner lit, every shadow gone. The beneath were silent, their whispers buried under salt and iron, but Owen felt them still, a faint itch, a cold spot under his bed, now boarded tight. "They're not dead," he told Jenny, weeks later, as normalcy crept back. "Just waiting." She nodded, handing him a new flashlight, its beam strong. "Then we wait too, ready?" They moved, eventually, to a new house, no trapdoors, no history. But kept the poker, the mirrors, a salt stash by the door. The beneath stayed behind, bound to Maple Lane, their claim broken but not forgotten. One night, in the new place, Owen woke to a whisper, soft, distant. Not his name, just a sigh. He flicked the light on, saw nothing, and smiled. Small but sure. They'd won, for now, and the shadows beneath stayed where they belonged, beneath.